Okay, so you decided you're gonna look for a 99 to 07 truck. This video is gonna be mostly for the 99 to 03, but you know, stick around if you're watch it through if you're even looking for a 6-liter, because I'll give you my opinion here on kind of a few things to look for. I've been parting out Super Duties. I started my shop in 2010 or 2009. Anyways, the first thing, if I'm personally looking to go buy a truck or a vehicle, and it goes for any of them for that matter, is look at the seller. So yeah, if you're on Facebook Marketplace, take a look at their profile. You know, if they got any information on there, check some of their pictures, see if they got the truck buried in the mud, doing a big burnout or something like that, abusing it. It's an idea too, if you're looking for a certain vehicle, join the local Powerstroke groups or your diesel page and run their name in the search. You'd be surprised what people put on there, you know. How do I know if my head gaskets are smoked or something like that? The guy's just been asking a question, or, you know, worried that he's got toasted head gaskets or bad transmission, and you can see the post from a couple of weeks before he decided to dump the truck. You know, a lot of guys will try and just get the truck fixed enough to run and drive so they can dump their problems onto the next guy. So every used truck's going to be a gamble. Well, you want to know what you're buying, you know, at least have the most confidence going forward that you got the right truck. Even a brand new truck now is a gamble, right? So the other thing is, you know, you're talking to the guy, you want to go meet up to go check out this truck. If he won't give you your home address, you know, they want to meet you downtown at the 7-Eleven or something, like why, you know, the guy doesn't want you knowing where he lives or something. I don't know. So if I'm buying a vehicle, I want to see kind of what their house is like, kind of give you an idea of, you know, how they're living will actually kind of show you a bit of how they're going to maintain. I don't know if that's true or not, but for me personally, I like buying something off somebody who's not afraid to tell me what their address is, at least, you know. Another thing, when I get there, I ask for the title so I can look at the title, make sure that, hey, their name matches what's on the title. And the other big one is if it's got a rebuilt status. I mean, I'm not against rebuilt trucks, especially if you're looking at Super Duties. They're the #1 stolen vehicle. There's tons of theft recoveries. They get a rebranded title. The big thing with that is if it is rebuilt, you want to know now so you can do some investigating looking at the truck to see if you can tell the body panels have been changed, overspray, spot welds drilled out, or if he says it's a theft recovery, you know, at least you know. So when it comes time to sell a truck down the road, you know, you got to disclose what it is, and you kind of want a bit of a backstory. Now, whether or not you trust his story is a whole nother thing, but at least you know to dig further into the truck. So okay, we got the basics handled now. We're there, we're looking at the truck. The exterior of the truck is probably the easiest thing to go over, right? We can see visual rust areas if the truck's got it. You know, we can't expect a mint one-owner truck for $5,000, right? So it's, you know, everyone's going to be kind of looking for a different grade of truck. So just know kind of in your head what you're looking for before you go there. There's not a lot we can do. Rust happens. So this truck's pretty clean looking. We walk up to this one here. You know, we're checking the fenders and the bottoms, kind of looking through, checking the fender gaps on it. The doors here, pop the doors open. We're gonna look in the rust spots for the doors, which are underneath these lips here is where it's gonna start rusting if it's letting go. This door is pretty clean, our rocker. If it's got steps, they're usually pretty clean here. If it doesn't, look for wear and tear. Oh, this back door is stuck, so I can't show you in behind here to look. We'll look here in the cab corners. We're starting to get a little rust there started. Then look on the back side where like the steps mount, you know. See if it's coming unglued under there. This one's looking pretty decent. Now the boxes on these, you know, it's common to get some rust around the wheel arch, but the big problem is, and I see it even on clean trucks, is these are getting older and the box rails rot out. You can see this one's starting to let go here. Now in my area, this is still a really clean box. One of the indicators, even before you go to look at the truck, if you're looking at the pictures, is look at this body line that's running down here. If you see this body line's dropped, that means the box rail's crushed from rust. It's rusted out and it's fallen down. So take a look down that and make sure that these body lines are lining up level. If they're not, it's gonna have a rust problem. So look around here, drop the tailgate. It's common that these rust out on this bottom lip, so just check that. But it's got a box liner in it. This one's screwed down, but a plastic one, lift it up, see what it looks like for holes underneath. The guys drilled it out and done a bad job installing a hitch, and you know, they're common. I've seen them out with big rust holes in them, so just check that. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. This one's starting to get a little bubbling started here. Check the roof, see if it's had anything drilled in it or damage. Again, you check these doors. And now when you get to the front, you can see this truck here is teal color in it, so it's had a repaint and color change. But most of the panels are all going to be stamped. If they're original, they're going to have Ford logo stamped on them, right? Now on this fender here, we got ourselves a Tongyang fender, so we know she's got a China fender, so something's happened on this corner of the truck. We can go a little farther into the investigating once we see that and see what the spot welds look like. You'll see the factory welds on this will have little spot welds all over, so you can kind of keep an eye on those. And this truck looks like the core support's all original, so kind of look through here, and if it's been banged and smashed, you know, these would be painted over or removed. So that's kind of what we're looking for, is anything with funky gaps, anything that's kind of jumping out at us that the truck might not be straight. And also look where the bolts line up here for the bolt holes, because if the front end's swayed over, what the guys will do is they'll Dremel these holes out to allow for more alignment of the bolt holes. So just kind of small stuff like that, kind of look it over. And then I also like to check the VIN tags on them, because these are #1 stolen trucks. So if you look here, this tag, it's got factory rivets, and it's got the little Ford, it's hard to see, but there's, can you see it? There's little Ford imprints in behind there. So the tag there, and then you can match it up and check your tag on the door. Now, it being an extended cab, you know, it could have had the door changed and the tags won't line up, or the tag will be missing. The crew cab's got a B pillar here and the tag's on that. If the tag's missing, then you know, might have a little bit of history behind it. So as far as the body, that's kind of the gist of what to look for. Just a quick, check it out, and again, make sure the door jambs and everything line up and that the doors all operate and close nicely. It's pretty common for these back doors to get sticky, so you want to check that out. All right, so we checked out the exterior. We're on to the interior of the truck. Now, these things are pretty bulletproof inside. They're built pretty strong. There's not a whole lot to look for. I mean, just look for wear and tear on the seat, which is going to be obvious. Steering wheel, if it's leather wrapped, they sometimes go all soft and gooey. If they're early 99, 2000s, check the locks. Usually the locks are sticky on them or start going out. Just test all the functions, for the mirrors and your windows, all the basic stuff. Make sure it all works. If it's 4-wheel drive, check the transfer case. Make sure that it's shifting into 4-wheel drive. Those are common, that the 4-wheel drive control modules can go on them. Just do your basic stuff. Now, the one thing with an interior that I tell everybody, look down at the pedals, look at the carpet, just look at the overall condition. If the interior is really worn out and it's a low mile truck or it's got signs of wear, be cautious, because these gauge clusters are the only thing that store the mileage. So the mileage is not in the computers. All you have to do is change that cluster and it's a rollback. And the 05, 07s, they literally sell a little tool and you can roll the cluster back manual on those. And the easy way on an 05, 07 is you can check the engine hours and it won't jive usually with the mileage, or have really high engine hours for the mileage. But on these, there's no engine hours. So there's no real way of telling about a rollback without doing, service history record check, or, even then. So, just get a general idea of the condition of the interior, because that's usually going to kind of tell you the story of the truck, right? So otherwise, there's not a real whole lot to look for. Oh, this one's got both doors are stuck on this truck. So there you go. We can negotiate some money off if we're buying Austin's truck here. It's not like a Dodge where the dash all busts out and rattles apart. Next, we'll go on to the frame and drive line. I got a frame over here we can kind of go take a look at. All right, we got this sweetheart of a roller here. So we can check out and point out a few things without getting down on our backs and bellies to crawl under it. So we'll start at the front. We want to make sure we're keeping our eyes out for leaks. These are old trucks. They're going to have some leaks. But what we want to make sure is when they're super nasty like this, we get an idea of what's leaking and what we're going to have to fix. So I'm going to show you when we get in the shop on the engine what's common to cause a lot of this leaks, and that's going to be the oil cooler. We got the power steering box. These are pretty common to get slop over time, so take a look when you're under here. Look for anything that's been, you know, recently replaced, that looks fresh, kind of give you an idea, you know, what the work's been done. Lots of people say they've done work and they haven't, or they've done work, but that was 6-7 years ago and it's old as crap now. So when you're looking around under here and you're looking at like the cotter keys and stuff, if the cotter keys still move, and you know, it's been recently done, or you know, they're not all rusted solid. So this one's obviously had a major oil leak. We're looking here, we can see like this truck's never been greased, or hasn't been greased in an awfully long time. It's had ball joints done. They got greasers on them, but I mean, these things are old as balls. Here's a good example. I mean, that cotter key is completely rusted solid, and you can see the rust build up on the threads. So those are super old ball joints, and they're gonna, you know, need to be done again eventually, if sooner than later probably. We look at the brake rotors, we can see the rust scale buildup in there. You know, it doesn't have new brakes by any means. Swap around here, look at the calipers. Yeah, I mean, it's just got your average old balls calipers. So okay, now 99 to 04, super common to have the sway bar end links wore out on them. This one's wore out. The bushings here, I mean, this is cheap stuff to replace, but you know, you can check it out, use it to negotiate the price if you want. But if you're driving down the road and it's banging and clanging, those bushings wear out. Check the diff seals. This one's leaking. Looking at the frame, these frames are, you know, they're pretty solid. I haven't had a rusted out frame ever. They get back here and they get pretty scaly and pitted, but I've never seen one with like a rust hole or a broken frame, at least in my area anyways. Check the center bearing. We get back here, you want to pay close attention to the leaf springs. These are prone to cracking. Sometimes you'll even see them, the leaf will be busted right out, a chunk missing. So take a close look at those. They've got these little bushings that are between. Now these are old trucks, so all these bushings are usually worn out unless someone's put new leaves on it. But you get an idea of kind of the wear on it by how far this one's worn into the other one. So I mean, these are super old leaves. You can tell it's got quite a bit of wear into the next leaf. So who knows how much longer these ones would have lasted or are gonna last. Backing plates, see if they're rusted off or not. Now the tires, obviously, pay attention to them. So make sure that they're wearing evenly and that they got decent tread. And you also want to check the date stamp on them. So you look for the DOT number. There you go. So if you look here, the first two digits are going to be the week that they're made and then the year. So there's the 10th week of 21. To make sure that they all match, so that they're the same. Just some minor things to kind of point out, to look for. The hubs on these 99 to 04s are pretty junky, so if you got some warns, that's a bonus. Okay, now we're going to move on to the engine. I'll show you a few things. Now the engine's kind of one of those things where you want to really do your due diligence, because that's the part that's going to cost you if you get something that's got a problem. Okay, quick thing before we jump in there to look at the engine in the shop. Now, a couple things to look for under the hood. The coolant on it. Take a look at the coolant. Make sure that it's not got oily residue or gunk in here. All right, if it's all oily up in here, then that's a sign the injector cups are failing on it. So take a look at that. Check your oil, your transmission fluid. If it's automatic, give it a sniff, see what it looks like. Make sure it's not burnt. Engine oil, obviously, check that out. If you can, get there, start it cold, see what it acts like cold, see if the injectors are sticky or slow. And then we're going to do a blow-by test. Now this one's warm. Start it up, Ost. Okay, so we're going to pull the cap on it. See this one? Little tiny bit of, but that's just bent. You don't got to worry about that. That's nothing. Cap on it. Make sure it's not bouncing. Now I'm going to show a video here of what the engine in the shop looked like for out the event and give you a little comparison, okay? So I'll put that video in right now. So as you can see in the other video, it had quite a bit more blow-by coming out of it. This one's, I wouldn't even consider blow-by. Okay, so moving on to the engine. Now, as you've seen in that video, it had quite a bit of blow-by, and I'm gonna show you, like, this is probably the biggest issue that I've seen over the years with the 7.3 is the engine getting dusted. All right, and guys buy these trucks and they don't realize it even has a problem or the engine's worn out. So the first thing that I'd want to check if it's got the stock airbox on it is check these tabs on the end, make sure none of them are broken, and it's only got these 2 wire clips on the ends that hold that down. Now if those are broken or one of those are missing, this will sit on there cockeyed and it'll suck air and it'll get unfiltered air into the engine. And also these, I've seen them warp and have a twist and not hold and squish the filter down to seal it proper. So you want to check that right off the rip. This rubber piece here is usually pretty good. I don't see a lot of these cracked or anything like that. This tube here is the next thing you're going to want to take a good look at, okay? Because these are prone to cracking or the clamps not getting put on properly. As you can see, this one here had a split on the bottom and the guy put some tape and zap straps to hold it on. So this one, unfortunately, has been eating dust, okay? And that's what caused the excessive blow-by that you've seen. And even then, a lot of people would say, well, that wasn't that much blow-by. The cap wasn't bouncing. You know, the engine's still fine, but I'll show you with the compression numbers that the engine's not fine and that it's wore out, all right? Also with this one, if you've seen here, he had taped off the engine crankcase vent, and it had, this goes on the valve cover here, and he had it with a dump tube down. If you see a 7.3 that's all stock and it's got a dump tube running off instead of being recirculated into the engine, that is a major red flag that this thing's got blow-by and they've dumped it out there. It's probably been smoking, driving down the road, and they're trying to dump the excess vapors out. So if you see a dump tube on there, at the very least, ask some serious questions because that's not a good sign. All right. Now, you also noticed in that video that it seemed to be running a little bit rough. The number 3 and number 8 injectors were getting sticky on it and weren't firing, so it was giving contribution faults for that. You could see it having a bit of a rough idle. Well, the compression was actually lower here on these 2 cylinders than it was on 8 and 3, and they were still firing fine. So these engines will still run good with lower compression. It's not totally wore out to the point where it won't run, but it's at its service limit, that's for sure. So you want to pay attention to the air inlet to the turbocharger. And if the seller's willing to let you do it, I'd ask to pull this pipe off so you can look in the turbo, because that's going to really tell you the story. Because you can look in here, and if you pay close attention to the fins, you'll be able to see, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you can see some wear, some chipping. You can see that it's had debris run through the turbo for the dust and dirt. So if you're able to pull that off, I mean, most sellers aren't going to let you compression test the engine. I wouldn't let someone pull my engine apart in my driveway to compression test it, that's for sure. But the compression numbers on this one were 320 on a couple of the lower ones. And one cylinder here on the back had 380, the others were 350 and 360. Compression tester, they vary for readings, but typically mine on a 7.3, 380 to 415 is what I see on a good healthy engine. So this one's definitely low. Take a look at the exhaust manifold bolts, see how they're looking, the up pipes. I mean, you can see those are starting to look pretty nasty and ready to break. This one's missing a manifold stud there. Here's the cooler, the engine oil cooler. You seen on the truck, on the frame outside that I showed you, had a serious amount of oil leakage going on here. They got O-rings in them that they get hard and they split. Not a major job to do or anything, but just things to look for, right? So That's a cause of a leak there. This engine was leaking out of the valve cover gaskets. They weren't tightened down very well. You can look at shiny water pump. Someone's at least done a water pump semi-recently. Another thing to check on these is the oil dipstick down here on the pan. Very common to leak out of here, and it's a pain to change. They kind of got a fix kit that they do offer, but you'll see, I've seen it quite a few times. Guys will just cover this in RTV or silicone to try and seal it up enough just to sell the truck. The main thing is just, you know, give yourself a little bit of knowledge on some little tricks on what to look for someone that could be hiding an engine problem. And just try not to buy something with, you know, a smoked motor. But for the most part, these engines are, they are super reliable. Maintenance-wise, there's not a whole lot to them. So just look for a few things to make sure that the engine's not dusted. Try and pick the best one you got, and hopefully your gamble pays off. So put in the comments, what are a few things you look for when you're going to buy a truck? And what's your tricks and tips? All right, till the next one.